My phalanges, I don't know where to put them. What is up, guys? I'm Envy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking every single Colourpop 12 pan eyeshadow palette I own and talking way too much. So if that is something that you're interested in, keep on watching. I wish that I weren't making this video on my floor, but sadly that is where we are today. So hello, welcome to my new house. So yeah, I'm on the floor. The audio might be a little echoey. I might try to fix it, obviously put music and just to pray. I kind of look like a disheveled single mom, which I am half of that statement, just disheveled. So let's just get right into it. So I actually have considerably less 12 pan palettes than 9 pan palettes, but I still have way too much. So let's get into my favorite category, which is what I haven't used yet. So first up is the Colourpop off Melrose Palette. So here she is. She has 1 pressed glitter, 2 mattes with glitter pressed into them, and 1 shade label as not eye safe, which is the pressed glitter Social Club. I saw this palette on Trend Mood and I was like, I should hold this up actually while I do this. Anyway, and I was like, I need it. I thought that it was going to be a nice dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. I actually was like in the middle of scripting that and I like swatched and I was like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. So it actually is not, but I said actually so many times during that anyway, but I bought this during a spicy little depressive episode and I ended up driving like all the way to Vallejo to get it because I just thought I needed it so bad. But since I bought it during a very hard time in my life, I almost like resent this palette because it reminds me of where I was during that time. And yeah, fun fact, retail therapy doesn't quite help chronic mental illness. So it's just, I need to use it. I need to just put aside my feelings and use it. That was kind of deep. So let's get into something a little more hashtag funny and relatable. Next up is my California Love palette. So this palette has 1 pressed glitter and 1, 2, 3 mattes with pressed glitter, but no shade is labeled as unsafe for the eye area. I believe that this is because this shade is kind of like, if you watch my last video, there's the Wild Child palette that has a glitter, but it's a very, the glitter reflex are very finely milled as opposed to like chunky. I think this isn't labeled as unsafe for the eye area, much like how that shade isn't labeled unsafe for the eye area, just because the glitter particles are so small. But I still just want you to know, like, if you don't like pressed glitter, this is a pressed glitter. I bought this palette, I should hold it up. I bought this palette on my birthday a couple years ago, and that was whenever Orange You Glad also released, and then I picked up Sweet Talk, and I ended up really using Orange You Glad and Sweet Talk way more than this, and so this kind of fell to the wayside, and then it just kept happening. So I might have used this like once or twice, but I can't remember my thoughts about it, so I'm just putting it here because I feel like that's something that like a lot of people can relate to, or if you get a large influx of something, especially makeup, there are always going to be things that kind of like fall towards the wayside. And that definitely happened with this. It's a pretty palette. Like, there's nothing in this palette that I don't like because I don't mind mattes with pressed glitters, but what I will say is if you don't like glitters or mattes with pressed glitter, that's a whole like third of the palette that you're not going to use. So that's another little thing to look forward to, that's it. So that's another thing to like look out for, is the fact that there are so many, I say so many, a third of the palette are shades that like you may or may not like using. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I just haven't used it. And finally, for this little category is the Powerpuff Girls and Colourpop palette. So I love Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff Girls is my like childhood. Powerpuff Girls and like Lizzie McGuire, Allie and AJ, like those IPs just really, really get to me. So of course I had to get this palette. But then I only swatched it and never used it. So I think my main issue with this palette is that it's just kind of boring, because this is a 12 pan palette, but this first row is just so light and like neutral. These aren't gonna be usable for everyone. I wish that they had had like a Princess Morbucks yellow, or like a Him red, or like a Mojo Jojo or Bunny purple, you know. Bunny isn't in the reboot though, it's Bliss. I think Bliss. Still, a purple for either Bunny or Bliss, who cares? Professor Utonium, a matte white or a matte black. I feel like more could have been done with this palette, but something that I do like is that the pans are bigger. They're the same size as their single shadows, where 12 pans and 9 pan palettes have slightly smaller pan size. So I do like that there's more product, but I just need to get around to using this. Oh, by the way, sorry. There are 2 pressed glitters. There are no mattes with pressed glitters, but 5 shades are labeled as unsafe for the immediate eye area. If you watched my last video, you know that unsafe for the immediate eye area doesn't really mean that it's bad. The FDA isn't really like caught up with like makeup testing and such. So these shades have dyes in them that could cause staining, and in very rare cases cause irritation to the eyes. Think that one girl's reaction to Skip from the James Charles palette whenever that released. That is a very rare thing that can happen, but the staining that happened was very, very common, and that's why these shades are just labeled as like not eye safe. So yeah, there's that. I mean, glitters obviously are labeled as unsafe for the eye area for the most part, because they're large glitter chunks that can cut your eye, but for like just regular pressed shadow, it's just because there's dyes. Wow, wasn't that nice? Now we're gonna get into the fun, and this next category I like to call objectively shit. I don't like cursing on my channel. Typically it happens as like a slip of the tongue or like as the punchline to a joke, but these palettes are objectively shit. So first off, you know her, I hate her. It is the Lizzie McGuire palette. It hurts my heart to like hate this palette so much. I have tried to use this several times, 2 times on my channel, several times just overall. She looks like this. So there is 1 pressed glitter, 1, 2, so there's 2 mattes with pressed glitter, but Digital Bean also has like some kind of like a glitter to it. It's very finely milled, and it's one of those glitters, or excuse me, it's one of those mattes with pressed glitters like I talked about in my last video, where in the Making Mauves palette, I didn't realize one of the mattes was a matte with glitter until I used it. And that's exactly what happened with this. I did not know that Digital Bean had glitter in it. You can't even really see it in comparison to these 2. You can see the shine. But anyway, that's not the main point of this, why I don't like this palette. So obviously, if you don't, wait, how many are labeled as unsafe for the eye area? Sorry about that. I write a little script, like a little like blurbs down. That way I kind of have my thoughts gathered. But this just fills me with so much rage. I just straight into it, kind of like with the Powerpuff Girls thing last time, where I was so excited I just jumped right into it. But so 1 pressed glitter, 2 mattes with glitter, but 6 of the 12 shades are labeled as unsafe for the immediate eye area, including the glitter, right? Yes, including the glitter, including the mattes with pressed glitter, so there must be some sort of dye. I love this color story. Green, pink, purple, it's tie-dye. I love that. I think that's amazing and I love it, but this purple is terrible. These mattes are terrible, I should say. The colorful mattes like the purple and the green do that like Colourpop thing that I hate, where if you pack it on the eyelid and then like blend away, the shade just blends away and it kind of leads like a nice, I say a nice, but it's just like a light stamp of the color, but I don't want that. I just want the color. And oh, I've tried twice on my channel. I've tried several times in real life. I can only really do the one eye look that I did the first time I used this. I'll have the video up here. It's horrible. The lighting was terrible. Anyway, I'll put a picture maybe. Who cares? Anyway, this is such a difficult palette to work with. I hate it. I think it's like half off on Ulta right now. Don't buy it. It is so bad. So like, it's just objectively, it's terrible. This quality is horrible. Even the shimmers. So like this shimmer is okay. This shimmer needs to be builded. This shimmer needs to be built up a little bit. This one's okay. But like even these purples, like, ooh, like the purples, ooh, I hate this palette. I hate this palette. Sometimes when I hate myself, I think I should make this a project pan. Maybe if I try it and like force myself to use it in new and different and experimental ways, I'll find a way to like it. And then I think that it'll be the end of my YouTube career because I'll just throw all of my makeup out the window because I try like the next day to just put it on just to see how it works, and I hate every single waking moment of it. I hate this palette. I hate this palette. I love you, Lizzie McGuire, and I'm so sorry, Hilary Duff. I hate this palette. I hate it. I will use it because I paid for it. It will not be a fun time. My legs are falling asleep. I love sitting crisscross on the floor. All right, so next palette is, it's the last palette in this category, thank God. And I'm sorry to everyone that loves this palette or this creator, but it is the At For A Sight by Colourpop and Raw Beauty Kristi. I was so excited to get this. Anyway, there are no pressed glitters. There is one matte with pressed glitters, that's Let It Rain, and one shade that is labeled as unsafe for the eye area, that is Amanita, the purple above it. So let's start with everything that I like about this palette. Look at this packaging. Look, the letters are embossed. Look at this like theme with like the mushrooms. Look at this color story. Look at this gold, West Coast. Now let's move on to everything else because, oh my God, these are the Colourpop mattes that, like I talked about before, you put them on, you blend, they go away, and I hate it. I tried to do a 3 looks 1 palette with this palette, and it ended up turning into like 5 looks because they just got so messy and horrible that I just had to stop. I just had to stop. I only have this palette around for palette comparisons. Please, I'm not bullying Kristi by saying I hate this palette. I'm not bullying Kristi. I love Kristi. I hate this palette. This palette isn't sold anymore, so I'm not affecting sales. I'm not affecting Kristi's life. I don't think she knows me, or knows of me, I guess I should say. I've done 2 palette comparisons, one with the It's a Mood large pan palette that they just brought out, and one with the Ace Beauté Classical Paradise palette. I'll link them, I'll have them somewhere up here right now, but I hate this palette so much. I have tried so incredibly much to get this to work. Everything oxidizes except for the shimmers. Every single thing, you put it on, you wait 30 seconds, it's an entirely different color, and I cannot stand it. Again, I keep this kind of like with the Lizzie McGuire palette. I think I can make this work, or maybe I can make certain shades work with like other palettes. Sorry, my other leg is falling asleep. I hate this. And I just, I don't like mixing and matching palettes on my channel or like in real life, because I think, oh, I could do like this or this for my channel whenever I do my makeup in real life. And I hate this palette. This palette is awful. This formula is terrible. Colourpop, why do you have like some great matte formulas and some terrible matte formulas? Ooh, I'm mad. I need to get closer to the camera, don't I? I need to stay close to the camera, but I lose circulation in my legs so fast. Oh my goodness. So the next tier, or like whatever it is on this list, is just meh. Because these palettes are pretty great, but they weren't like great enough to make it into the top 3. Yeah, that's how few like 12 pan palettes I have. My last video was 40 minutes. I was filming for like almost an hour. I'm at like maybe 20 minutes filming time, and I'm already halfway through. Amazing. So first up in the meh category is the All That palette. I think it's She's All That and then some. She's All That palette. So here is what she looks like. There is one pressed glitter and dug my finger into the black. Anyway, 2 mattes with pressed glitter, and 1 shade is labeled as Not Eye Safe. Which one is it? Oh, it doesn't tell me on this one. Please Me. So this one, Please Me right here. Oh God, thumbs. Please Me is not labeled as safe for the immediate eye area, and here's the, what I love red. Red is my favorite color. Red is my favorite color, but what kills me on this palette is like this first like row and then like this half. It's just uncooked chicken. It is light pink. It is it's pale. I hate it. Colourpop, you don't need to make the first half palette or the first row of a palette light transition shades. If this is a red palette, make it red. I wish, there was so many. Whenever I found out they were coming out with a red palette, I was so excited, and then I didn't buy this until it was like half off or something, because I was so mad at that top row. Anyway, the mattes are fine. The shimmers are fine. This like foiled shade, I love it. This like, I don't know if it's a super shock shadow or like a regular shimmer that's just like really sparkly. It's great. The formula's great. It's just the concept and like it's just the top row kills it for me, and I have to dip into other palettes in order to use it. So I don't use it nearly as much because I don't like doing that, as previously stated. So it's the formula's great, and the, I guess, idea is there. It's just the execution with like, if I hold it like this, you can really see like this row and like these 2 shades. I didn't need them, so I just, it kills it for me. Next is my Menage A Muah palette. So she looks like this. There are 2 pressed glitters, Big Tease and Confess, 2 mattes with glitters, After Midnight, and I just saw it, Butterflies. And yeah, I like this palette. I like this palette a lot more than a lot of my other mauve or purple palettes. I would suggest getting this palette over like any other mauve palette. Maybe not Or Kid You Not. That's a pretty good like purple palette. I don't have it, but I've seen reviews and I like it. But away from that tangent, there are 2 glitters and 2 mattes with glitters. So again, if you don't like or don't use those formulas, you're out a third of the palette. Once again, Colourpop kind of fell into the trap of the first like top row being really light, and that's not really too much of an issue because Crave does kind of oxidize down to like more of a pink. That's fine, but Crave's like formula and Amore, this like light pink shimmer formula, they're just not it for me. I don't know why. They just don't play along with me or play along with this palette, I guess, really well. Whenever I use them, most of the time I just feel like something's out of place, so I have to like go in with something else. And like really the only reason why this isn't in the top 3 is just because sometimes the look kind of gets lost in translation with using Amore and Crave, but everything else is really good. I love Miss You. Miss You and Thrillist are stunning shades. I roasted the other palette for having a light, you know, a light colored shimmer, but man, this formula is amazing. It's so light and buttery. Miss You and Thrillist are kind of like, I don't want to say they're like Natasha Denona formula quality, but they're really smooth, they're really buttery, and they're really good. They really kind of help make this palette because those are the only other shimmer shades that aren't glitter other than Amore. Like, if this palette didn't have Thrillist or Miss You, I don't know if it would be up this high, just because those shimmers are so wonderful and like versatile, and you can really layer them to kind of add depth but not shine, or just pack them on and make them like super shimmery and shiny on the lid. I love it. So yeah, it's just the two outstanding shades are kind of counteracted by the two shades, and just other palettes had just a little bit better formula. So I still suggest this over like, I already said it in this video, over Making Mauves. I highly recommend this over Making Mauves. So yeah, it's all right. The last palette in this category is my Good As Gold palette. This is my Pan That palette, and it's all right. So as you can see, I am almost completely done with this shade. You just have some kind of like shimmer balls resting down there. Otherwise, that shade's like completely done. This shade is half panned. This has a pretty big pan in it. This is a lie. I scraped this out because I don't really use matte black eyeshadows, and like looking at it was just kind of making me sad. So I scraped it out, but yeah, it's very interesting how like, I love certain parts of this palette, but like I don't love other parts of this palette. So let's talk about like what I love. Okay, so I think all the shades that I have like pans on, like State of Mind is such a wonderful shade. I actually kind of use, I can use this as a contour in like the dead of winter, and I did last winter, which is why I got such a big like dip in it. 24 karat, it's stunning. I use it over my highlight. I think it adds such a brilliant like shimmer to everything. Gilded is one of my favorite glitters. Oh, speaking of glitters, oh my god, I get so excited to talk about things. I just completely like zone out. Hello. So there are two glitters. One matte with pressed glitter, and then I think one shade was labeled as not safe for the eye area. Two shades were labeled as unsafe for the eye area, the two glitters. So I love Gilded, obviously. Gold Star is a stunning shade autumn. It's half panned, it's amazing. Nugget about it, it's okay. Golden Touch is not like my favorite tone of glitter. Same with Diggin' You, it's not my, it's a very pale gold, and I love something that's a little bit more like warm. One of my little like shimmer, oh god, everything sucks. One of my 24, the last of my 24 karat fell out, and I just dug my nail into Gilded, so I've expedited that process a little bit. Anyway, this shade, it's all right. I do really like it. So here's the thing, these three palettes, they're not really listed in like any particular order. It's just like, they're not in comparison against themselves, like each other, I guess, in this. There's so many bugs, oh my god. Just moved in woes, bugs everywhere. Anyway, let's see if I can get through this sentence on the fourth time of me saying it. These palettes in like this Meg category aren't like competing against each other. They were competing against the palettes like in the top three for the space in the top three. I make this sound so official, oh my goodness. But just because I talked about Menage A Moi before Good As Gold doesn't mean that it's any better or any worse than Good As Gold. It's just these three palettes weren't as good as my top three, so I just listed them in order of just picking them up pretty much. So yeah, they're all great palettes. They're just kind of, they're just all right. All right, it's top three time, baby. I know that I'm back away. My feet started falling asleep again. I need a chair. All right, so these are kind of listed in like order of importance. So my third most favorite palette of my 12 pan Colourpop palettes is my Boudoir Noir palette. So there is one matte with pressed glitter and one pressed glitter, which is also the only shade that is labeled as unsafe for the immediate eye area. This is good as gold, but better. This came out, I think, last holiday, and it's the companion palette to Menage A Moi. But yeah, this is just good as gold, but better, because it is very gold, but it does have like some olives and some like red browns and just some tones that I feel really work well together and in like a golden palette. Plus, there's one less pressed glitter and one less matte with glitter for those of you who don't like those shades. I have done a palette comparison between this and the Good as Gold palette. I'll have it linked. But yeah, there are no bad shades in this. Like every matte like totally works. There are no issues like with the dark green where I press it down and it blends away. Nothing like that. I know that I've complained about like the first half of these palettes. I need to not cover my mouth. The first half of these palettes being a little bit uncooked chicken-y, but like this still kind of suffers from that, but to a lesser extent, because Body Language is a really nice shimmery taupe, and I think that works well with like what the vibes this palette is going for mainly. Like, for example, like calling back to previous palettes, Powerpuff Girls didn't need to have the beige and all that, the She's All That palette, the red palette didn't need to have all the fucking light pinks. Oh goodness, I need to not curse. Ugh. Anyway, I got too into it. I'm getting too into the eyeshadow. Oh no. But yeah, this is just good as gold, but better. It's a great palette. If you want something that's kind of like olivey gold and with like a little bit of red, I'd say totally go for this palette. Every look I've done with this palette has been great. I love every single shade in this palette, and yeah. Number 3, baby. All right, this is my penultimate palette, and number 2, that's redundant, but whatever. Moving on, the Whatever palette by Colourpop. So let's flip this up. So there is one pressed glitter, no mattes with pressed glitter, and 2 shades are labeled as, excuse me, 3 shades are labeled as unsafe for use on the immediate eye area, but not with any like asterisk on the back, just on this like little sticker down here, which I think is kind of weird. I'm happy they started putting it like next to the names and on the back with the stickers. Sorry, my legs are falling asleep again. I can't do anything right. Anyway, I love this palette. I have added this to my project pan to kind of help me get out of the rut of just using the same shades in my Good as Gold palette, and this has helped tremendously. Not Okay is like my favorite bronze shade ever. It is Natasha Denona quality, I swear to you. It is so stunning, but every single shade in here is an absolute banger. I left Tardy, which is a Super Shock shadow. Ditchin' You and Talk to You Never. Ditchin' You? Yeah. Ditchin' You is like it's like a red to orange duochrome, if you can see that. I love it. Mrs. Brightside, yeah, I hate it. I wish it were just Mr. Brightside, like the song, but whatever. The shade is Mrs. Brightside. It can get a little bit patchy, but it's nowhere near like Amanita levels of like purple patchy garbage, like whatever, from the At Forest Sight palette. I did a palette comparison between this and the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. Yes, Sunset palette. And I put my swatches on my Instagram story, and I asked everyone which side they thought was the $18 palette and which side was the $129 palette. And everyone thought that this palette was the $129 palette, mainly because of the shimmers, because the shimmers in this are just outstanding. Oh my goodness, I love it so much. This is the perfect fall palette. If you don't have any other Colourpop palettes that are like warm toned and nice, I would say get this. This is an outstanding palette. All right, and last but certainly not least, who guessed it? Sweet Talk. I love this palette. So there are 2 pressed glitters. I don't like this holographic background. Oh, that could hurt someone. There are 2 pressed glitters, no mattes with pressed glitter, and strangely enough, on the palette, no shades are listed as unsafe for the immediate eye area, but I thought, just thinking to myself while writing this down and looking up these palettes, that these glitters are a little too chunky, and like Dreammaker and Meadow are a little like too bright to not have something going on. So I looked on the website and there was like nothing until I got to the ingredients list. And in the ingredients list, yes, these 2 glitters and Dreammaker, Meadow's fine, but Dreammaker are labeled as unsafe for the use on the immediate eye area. Let me hold this up a little bit more. So that if you don't like using shades like that, that's a third of the palette gone. I did a palette comparison between this and the Costa Coral palette, I believe. It was like one of my first videos to get like over 100 views, and I was like, oh my god. Anyway, I love this palette. I used this so much before Ulta even sold it, and people were mad that I was directing them to the Colourpop website because I was using something that, because Ulta didn't even have Colourpop at the time. That's how old this is. I got this as a birthday present to myself, and man, I just really like this. This is such a nice, summery, but you can totally make this like a colorful fall palette. I just think this is so stunning and so vibrant, and you know, like I said, like if you don't have anything like this in any other brand, I would suggest getting this palette along with whatever, the whatever palette, I should say, not just, you know, whatever, but why did they come out like that? Who am I? Anyway, I love this palette and I highly recommend it. I have gotten so much use out of this palette and you can't even really see it. Like, it just takes a little dab and there's so much vibrancy and so much color and so much life that can come out of this palette. And I just really genuinely enjoy it. I think every color plays I think every color plays well with every other color. This is an absolutely amazing formula. I think this is the palette that kind of put Colourpop on the map. I really like the packaging. I know that I get like annoyed with the foiled inside whenever I am filming, but I do think that it's pretty to look at. I love this like packaging. I think they hit the nail right on the head in terms of concept. And yeah, that is my little ranking of all of my Colourpop 12 pan eyeshadow palettes. Thank you everybody so much for watching. This is probably going to be another like long-ish video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know down below which Colourpop palettes you like best and what you might want to see next. I love you all and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!